So yeah, we have a couple of interested folks who have joined us. Usha, I know we kind of spoke about this yesterday, how many people are going to join? And that is $1 million question. But one of the things that Usha had mentioned earlier was that it's important that we have a mix of people who have been doing this kind of work, farming related work, and people who are interested in it. So if we have a mix of the generations, it'll be really nice, because the whole idea is to see how we can enthuse the next generation to take forward, in Usha's words, this culture, the rice culture. Right. And I thought it actually made so much of sense. So, Usha, we'll probably wait and see. And like we were talking about it the other day, we're fine with whoever joins. And we're looking forward to great conversations and sharing of collective wisdom that exists out here. So, on that note, a good evening to all of you, and thank you for joining the first in the series of sessions that we plan to have. It was an interesting way in which this entire thing started. It started as a conversation in a particular group where they were deliberating around what kind of alternate cropping, farming techniques are actually happening in Coorg. There is bamboo cultivation that's coming in, that's areca nut that's coming in. What is it that we can do differently? How can we go back to our old wisdom and still retain the rice growing techniques that we in Coorg used to follow, right? And paddy, land, soil, we are nature worshippers, a large portion of the folks in Coorg, and a lot of people are dependent on the soil. So it made a lot of sense to, start looking at what is it that is currently happening, and what are different ways in which we can support this sustainability development goals of 2030, right? It seems like a long drawn ambitious approach, but we thought it's important for us to start looking ahead and then looking within to see what is it that we are currently doing. There is a lot of great stuff that we have done in Coorg. We have a lot of neighboring states in Kerala and Tamil Nadu and in Andhra Pradesh where a lot of great stuff has happened in the farming sector. And if we have to work collectively, what are some things that we can do differently? What are some wisdom that we can share, learn from each other? We thought this could be a great platform for us to get started on understanding this a little deeper and trying to see what are different ways in which we can make a difference to our lives. I was reading somewhere, in order to raise an environmentally conscious generation, there is some work that has to start sometime. And we believe that the time has started. We know that there are a lot of people out here who have done great stuff. And in fact, we're looking at collaborating with all of them. On that note, welcome once again. I'll just quickly introduce Usha as well as our collaborators for this engagement. Also want to kind of just share some housekeeping, just so we're all on the same page. This is the first of the kind series. I'm going to request everyone to use the chat window in case you have any questions. We're more than happy to take your questions. This is going to be for a 1 hour duration, and thanks to Gopa for setting up this entire piece for us. Also making sure that in case we're unable to take some of your questions, we will get back to you. The whole idea is to keep this as a cyclical model where we keep inviting people to share best practices. On that note, warm welcome to you all, and I want to introduce our speaker for today. We have Usha. Usha is an MSc in horticulture from the Kerala Agriculture University. Actually, there's a very lengthy, there are a lot of attributes that are out here, but I'm going to kind of condense it a little bit. And her work is going to speak for itself. She's a founder, member, and director of Thanal Trust, and that's a link that I'll send across after we finish this meeting. She's a national coordinator of Save Our Rice campaign. And I really loved the way in which she spoke about it. She spoke about how it connects to people, their lives, and how promoting safe food and protecting rice and biodiversity is so important for them. So that's something that they're doing as part of Save Our Rice campaign. She's also the director of the Tirunelli Agri Producer Company in Wayanad. She's a member of the State Resource Group, Kerala State Mahila Samaksha Society, which is based in Trivandrum. She's also a member of National Facilitator Team of MAKAM, which is the Mahila Kisan Adhikar Manch, a national coalition of women farmers and organizations working with women farmers. And there's a lot of other things that she has done, but a lot of work has been in the area of agriculture and rice cultivation, which is very close to her heart. Welcome once again, Usha. Thanks for joining. I know you kind of traveled in the morning and you're here with us today. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank our collaborators for today. We have the Environment Health Foundation of India, of which Colonel Muthanna, Muthanna is the founding member. He's one of our collaborators. We have Dr. Kushalappa, who's the Principal College of Forestry based in Ponampet and Kodagu. We have Rana Karyappa, who is the CEO of the Puthari Farmers Producer Company Limited, based out of Kodagu. We also have the MD of Puthari Farmers Producers Association, a company limited, which is MR Karyappa. We then have our Gopakumar Menon, who has been kind enough to host us today on the Zoom, and he is anchoring the Koile Meen project. He also is part of the otter conservation, and there are a lot of other things that he does. But the interesting part is those who we collaborated with is connected to this farming and the work that we are embarking on in a very nice way, very integrated manner. And it just happened in a very serendipitous way. So it is so beautiful. And so we're very happy to be collaborating with all of you. So on that note, I'm going to hand the stage over to you, Ushakumari.
So thanks, Sujatha, for this wonderful opportunity to meet you all. And then, because we have some romantic ideas about food in Kerala, reading about it, and then, also we are close, nearby. Actually, by the language only we are divided, but otherwise, topographically, culturally, there is a lot of similarities and identities. That is how I see food. To begin with, I am, as Sujatha was mentioning, I did my post-graduation in horticulture. And while doing so, by some chance, I could meet some of the forefront people in the Silent Valley movement. And that is how I got introduced to the idea of conservation, as well as the larger issues of environment, which at that time, that was in 80s, early 80s. And that actually took me to another world altogether. That is what I want to begin with. In the 80s and 90s, I worked in the agriculture department with the government, and later with some other organizations. Also, like basically looking at the Western Ghats development program, and also doing some environmental education in schools, colleges, taking children to forest. In a sense, I was also learning all through these years, because the ecology, environment is, I think it's a everyday learning for me, in a sense, because you try to understand more and more as you go deeper into environment or ecological or forest or the natural ecosystems generally. But in the late 90s, some of us joined together and we started Thanal. Thanal was registered in 1986, basically as a small organization to go to the forest, basically to do some research, to look at the animals and to understand the forest and all. And you needed an address. That is why we started Thanal. It's a small collective of students. But then we joined, but in 97, 98, because that was the changing period as part of the globalization. We were all, the countries were getting closer in one sense. And our people got a lot of opportunity to travel and then work outside. And so that was bringing a lot of money. So especially in a state like Kerala, we are completely economically dependent on the NRI investment in one sense. So one of the sector which got impacted by this process is agriculture. So in a sense, the people started looking agriculture. That's a very poor sector. There is nothing to economically to gain, kind of. So there is no need for giving more attention. And also there is no attractive thing in agriculture at that. And the youth were moving away, including me. Now our generation, starting from our generation, people were moving away from agriculture, getting into other, because of through the good education, we could go out and then work, and then either in the government or some banks or some other, or going outside was also possible in the 90s. So in a sense, we were moving away from the land. And that was, in a sense, so as an environmentally conscious person, because you try to understand the connection between the nature as well as your culture, and then the longer sustainability. So you understand it in a very different manner, which I was not able to communicate at that time. But then I was moving with the students, children, and farmers in between. These were the two people I was more involved in the 90s. And slowly I got involved with some of these issues, especially pesticides. Many of you might have heard about the endosulfan tragedy in Kasaragod. So in 98, 99, we got involved, and then that took us in a different direction of engaging with the government, and internationally also we got some opportunity to work with the UN because of that. So like that. So Thanal also, it was a journey for myself and also for the organization. And we are one of the 3-4 people of the founder members of Thanal. They are still with us. Together, we are together. And in 90, so 2 issues. So in the 80s and 90s in Kerala, more focus was on forest conservation, not much on other issues. But then in 98, when we got involved in this issue, we realized that we have to focus more on issues of toxicity, because not only pesticides, we were getting exposed to a lot of other chemicals. Basically, it is called persistent organic pollutants. There was a convention going on at that time, and we were, as I said before, we got involved in that. It is called Stockholm Convention. And getting involved in the problem side, with working with the communities, working with the local governments, including the victims, in a sense, victims of these problems. We realized that now it was taking a lot of our time, resources, and also the anxieties which you go through, and you do not know whether you will win or not. So that was happening in between 97 to 2002. But then we had some success. We could get the ban on this pesticide in Kerala. Similarly, we worked towards a global ban, and we got a global ban in 2011. It was a long journey, and we realized that this is only one chemical. And if you look at the national picture, we have more than 200 pesticides in this country. So, and all are very highly toxic. Most of them are highly toxic, highly hazardous pesticides. And so we realized that we have to work on it, but then that is not enough. We have to find a solution to this problem. That is where because already the organic farming was becoming a movement at the state level, also nationally also. So we started to work with the farmers in Trivandrum, very small farmers. And generally, when you, at that time, in Kerala, when you talk about agriculture, everybody will tell you, Kerala cannot go forward with agriculture, because we have to look at other sectors like tourism or other industries, IT, or you educate your children and then export. Then you can, that is the way you can, agriculture will not sustain our livelihood. That was also because the land holding size is so small. Majority of the people do not have much land in Kerala. We have big plantations, and then you have a huge sector of small and marginal farmers and landless farmers. So it is very difficult. In a sense, it's a challenge. But then we wanted to prove that Kerala is the land is such a productive asset. And also the pesticide issue is a real problem, and we are importing all our food from Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and you do not know who is making your food and how they are growing, and the pesticide residues tested, which the government started doing in Kerala. We found that every not coming out of Tamil Nadu or other states are having pesticide residues in it. So every day we are taking poison. Is this kind of development which we want? If we go forward like this, what will happen to the other our health? And then, which is a huge thing, because once you start compromising on health, then you have to budget for that. So whatever you make, you ultimately see the number of hospitals which have sprung up everywhere in Kerala. Now it is helping people in a sense during COVID time, but then otherwise people are spending so much on healthcare. Also, people are becoming more morbid also. So all these were issues which we are facing every day kind of, and it was impacting us also in a different manner. So we thought we have to work towards a solution. That is where we started to work with a few women farmers in Trivandrum, and that where we began, and then that became a long journey. So, but then so we got into other networks internationally, like the Pesticide Action Network. Similarly, nationally also, other organizations in other states also, we started to engage on this, who were already into sustainable agriculture and all. 2003, the Pesticide Action Network was launching Asian Rice Campaign. That is why where we thought of joining the rice campaign, because Kerala was fast losing its paddy lands in the 80s and starting from 80s and then in 90s. That was such a fast pace that we realized that if we go on like this, we will soon we'll have to look at because children were started. When we engage the children, they will ask us in which tree the rice is grown. That kind of stupid questions we had to face. So that is where we started to realize that you have to stop this somewhere. Because Kerala means when we were growing, all our villages had paddy lands. So paddy, coconut, and some other homestead farming, that was our landscape when we were all growing up in the 60s, 70s. And so Kerala means that for you. And suddenly you start losing, and then you will see clay mining coming in, then bricks coming, the paddy lands getting burned. The brick kilns started working. And also housing projects, waste dumping, all these started happening in the 90s. And in many places, there were small groups who were opposing it also. Basically, naturally there will be fight between the government, panchayats, and then maybe the buyers and then the struggling people. So all these things were happening. So we were also involved. We were also fighting. We were going to the court to stop this, but it was not very difficult at that time. So, but since I had some contacts with the farmers in Palakkad and Wayanad. By engaging with the farmers, what we could understand is that unless the rice farming becomes economically viable, we cannot stop this conversion. That is very, very, very clear to us. Because when you talk to farmers, they tell you that when if they can grow rubber in that same land, they can make lakhs of rupees. Or if they convert to ginger or banana, still they can make a living out of it. Because the economy was growing, so everybody was making money except the rice farmers. So why should they sacrifice? So that was a question we had to answer. That is where we started to engage, and then suddenly this 2003 Asian Rice Campaign was beginning. So we thought, let us also try to do something sitting in, at least in targeting Kerala. We were not targeting other states, but then we thought, so in 2004, why this Pesticide Action Network, why they started the campaign? Because 2004 was declared as the International Year of Rice by Food and Agricultural Organization. So that was the second International Year of Rice. So as an agriculture student, I have never heard of a first International Year of Rice. So then I started to look at when was it? When we had the first International Year of Rice. Then we found out that it was in 1966. So 1966 was the year of introduction of the first hybrid in rice called IR8. That actually changed the rice landscape in Asia, including our country, And India is the center of origin of rice. The Eastern India and Burma, that region is the center of origin of rice. And we had lakhs of, at least more than 1 lakh, less than 2 lakh accessions, may not be varieties, but accessions of rice India had in the 1960s. But when you talk to the agricultural scientists, rice scientists, you realize that you are losing those varieties because of the introduction of these high yielding varieties, because nobody's really taking care of the basic rice diversity. Only one scientist who has done this work in India is Dr. Richaria. He's no more. He was working with the Central Rice Research Institute in Cuttack, and then later he got shifted to Madhya Pradesh. And he had collected a lot of varieties, almost 18 to 19,000 varieties. He collected from Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, those areas, basically the tribal region from that area. And and it is, even now it is there in the Indira Gandhi Agriculture University in Raipur. So we found out that Kerala, we are fast losing this paddy landscape, and slowly people are moving out of paddy farming into other crops, and then selling off the land, and then all those things. Development was completely taking away the paddy lands. So that is where we thought we have to do something in 2004 to engage on this issue. So but then when we started to discuss with the other groups, in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, many people were interested to join. And we had the first workshop happening in Kerala, in a small village called Kumbalangi near Cochin. And this Kumbalangi is is well known for Pokali rice cultivation. Pokali is it's a coastal region. It's a salt intrusion area. So there, the traditional culture was paddy and fish, paddy and prawn. So in rainy season, farmers cultivate paddy, and in the next season they have the fish or fish and prawn. Both can be done. So it was very rich, in that very rich culture, very good for economic purpose also. But slowly it was also changing. That landscape was changing, and the government was trying to bring in some ecotourism ideas in this village. So that is where in this village we organized the first workshop, and we had more than 100 participants coming from 10 states in India. And 2 days we sat together and then discussed which are the issues of rice in India. Because as I said, the rice culture, that is where the idea of rice culture came to us. Because when you talk about rice, there is a lot of allegations against rice now, in the context of climate change, in the context of diabetes, in the context of many other issues, irrigation, the water dams. All these are made for rice cultivation, like in Punjab, for example. So there is in a sense, there's a problem side towards rice. But then this is our culture, this is our heritage. So how do we protect it, and then where is its space? Where is the space of rice in the food security basket? Now there is only rice and wheat. So there was, at that time, there was also discussion happening in many states in India, especially in Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka and all, on the millets. Because of the water issue. Everybody who work on water issue are against rice. Okay, so they were wanting to shift from rice to millets. But then rice, from sitting in Kerala, looking at the rice diversity and its potential and its traditional heritage, our food culture, it is also, we realize that it is also important to protect that. Maybe we can stop rice cultivation in certain areas, but especially in a state like Kerala, unless you stop cultivating rice, you lose not just the rice, but also the water. It was a rain-fed crop in Kerala because we had enough rain. And the only rice ecosystem only can contain this much of water. The paddy ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
So in the coastal regions or in the midlands or in the valleys, hill valleys, farmers were so innovative in the earlier days. And they have made terraces, to hold water. There won't be any soil loss and there won't be any water loss. And also you can take a beautiful crop. And they also like discovered a lot of varieties which are suitable to that particular agroecological region. So you have different varieties for Wayanad. You have another set of varieties for Muthanna, which is below mean sea level. So even in a small state like Kerala, you have different agroecologies for rice. So if you look at India also, it is like that. The people in farmers in Himalayas are cultivating. It's a high mountain area. Also in Kerala, the Kuttanad region, it is below mean sea level. So we see that only rice has this much of adaptation. If you look at the larger food security or the crop diversity in the world, maybe only rice has this potential. So it has a value for the current food security as well as future food security. But the problem during this discussion, we realized that, but the high-yielding varieties or the hybrids and the upcoming golden rice, which is a genetically modified rice, and the scientists are working on more and more BT rice, those kind of stuff at that time. So, but those varieties cannot be cultivated in this agroecologies because they are all very vulnerable varieties. Because each seed, we are in the 2 days of discussion. Some of the farmers, especially the traditional farmers who participated in this, they came with seeds, different varieties of seeds, to show their happiness and their wisdom to all of us. They were telling that each seed has a particular package of practices. So if you adopt one particular seed, you have to follow certain practices. So this can be cultivated only in particular season, and it has a duration is different, or the pest and disease resistance is different, or salt. There are some salt tolerant varieties, flood tolerant varieties, drought tolerant varieties. So all these were, in a sense, it was very exciting for the participants, for especially people like us who are not doing the whole variety. Cultivating this variety. So then after the workshop, we decided that we have to do something. Now, this workshop is not enough. So we came out with a declaration, and then we started to engage with more farmers initially in Kerala. Then the people who came for this workshop, especially from Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, they also said they also want to continue this discussion because everywhere the problem is, this is a regular problem.
Very true.
From Tamil Nadu, the people are converting from rice to banana. If you go to Kanyakumari district, you will see the same story everywhere. So then, but then there's a problem also, on the rice because of the green revolution approaches.
And the methane and all that.
Yeah. So at the same time, all the green revolution farmers are also losing economically. They are not benefiting actually. The nation is benefited because of we have food security.
Correct.
No, everybody else except the farmers have benefited.
Yeah.
Because the miller has benefited, trader has benefited, consumers have benefited. Even the poor person, in a sense, we get the PDS rice. No, everybody gets PDS rice because of these farmers are making the rice, but then they are losing. So that is where we realize that we have to work with the entire chain, not just with the farmers. Working with the farmers alone, especially in the case of rice, we cannot reach the solution. Maybe we can work with the 4 farmers, 5 farmers, maybe 100 farmers, but rice is so huge. It's
the movement needs to actually happen.
Yeah. Then that is where maybe you can start showing that the slide.
I can do that.
Yeah, please.
I'll do that. And Usha, I think you've brought out some very interesting points which resonate with us. In fact, one of the reasons for starting this entire campaign was specifically about that. When you said that tourism, exporting education, or educating people so that they get exported outside, these are some of the challenges that we are grappling with. There's a lot of resonance with what you're saying and what we're currently going through. And we've been going through that for a while. And one of the questions that we have also had is how can we make rice farming economically viable? Because that is our biggest thing. Once we are able to give the solutions, you've been trying with prawn and fish and all of it, but ecotourism comes in. You never know when that ugly head lifts somewhere. But I also want to acknowledge that, like you have had these many, many varieties in Kerala, we've also had a lot of varieties out here. In fact, I think we have the grandson of one of the persons out here. We've had a BKB variety, which is a Baduanda K. Belyappa variety. All right. That's a strain that was identified by him. And there's a pub variety, and the person who's responsible for that was Patada Belyappa. In fact, these are the 2 pictures that we have had on the poster as well, just to say that there is so much work that has happened in the rice cultivation space that it's important for us to continue it. And like you said, right, it's a heritage, it's a culture. There might be some challenges associated with it, but then how can we still go ahead and realize that it has helped so many people? There are alternate crops that are coming in, but are we able to weigh the pros and cons around this entire thing, right? So, and Dr. Kushalappa, who is the principal of the Forestry College in Ponampet out here, they are doing a lot of research in this particular space. So just a quick word from Dr. Kushalappa when I'm getting your slide up. Over to you, Dr. Kushalappa.
Thank you for this opportunity. Wonderful to listen to Usha, who's our immediate neighbor there, and probably it looks there has been a realization in Wayanad, but unfortunately we're losing out in Kodagu. So we wish that a similar kind of a movement, probably there's something very interesting, Sujatha, I found is that involving the women.
Yeah,
I think that's a key. That's a key here. I think the strength of any agriculture, whether it's Coog or Indian agriculture, is the active involvement of women. So probably this is one thing that we need to really address and ensure that whether it's paddy or coffee cultivation, the lady has to have this connect. So starting from the Yaka Puja, where they perform the puja to the seed beds, to the transplantation pujas that is normally done by the head lady of the house. So it's not just for Puthari that they need to go to the paddy field. It's these small little initiatives that we need to do it up. And I'm extremely happy that quite a good number of active people are all involved in this interaction today. And something gratifying that's happening is the area under rice cultivation is slowly increasing in Coog. We're not totally losing out. I think the big reason is that mechanization has come in a big way, and alternative sowing methods. Rather than transplanting, people have started to broadcast. So now, whichever method which makes the operations easy, whether it is broadcasting or drill sowing or even mechanization, I think this is one savior that's held on to the paddy cultivation in the region. My major effort here is, as Ma'am Usha was talking, how do we make paddy cultivation more remunerative for the farmers? So this is the only way to show more money in paddy. That's the only way we could do it. So I'm extremely happy that Puthari is in this meeting, and there are some people who are now directly trying to source rice from the farmers to the consumer. They're also part of this meeting today. If that's going to happen, rather than selling paddy, where you always expect a minimum support price from the government, rather than that, why don't we convert that paddy into rice and give it to the local communities and local people and in the public distribution system is the first thing. Second, our efforts is also now not only to get subsidies, but also to incentivize the cultivation. Because as ma'am rightly said, this is one method of cultivation which is highly supportive to the environment, because we impound water, we collect rainwater, which recharges all our stream. So we also working at the possibility of getting the payments for ecosystem services. We made a case through the local Jilla Panchayat to the state government that a farmer who grows rice in Western Ghats situation need to be provided incentive. What is the incentive? At least if it can cover the basic cost of cultivation, if it can be covered, then probably the farmer is not at a loss. Otherwise, for some reason, if he loses out the crop, then he loses the entire money. So it could be about 10,000 rupees per acre is what we have estimated is the current pricing. So if this cost could be provided either through a CSR grant under the PSE, this payment for ecosystem services, or from the government or some mechanism, I'm sure a lot of farmers will take up. I'm a certified organic paddy farmer myself. So my major problem is elephants. So I have elephants coming in. So a large number of farmers, they're definitely impacted by the elephants. So this is where Colonel Muthanna is currently working with the government to provide the hanging fences, which could be temporarily be put during the cropping season and could be taken out. So there is some amount of interest, but Sujatha, I think something very interesting now is the reverse migrations due to COVID. A lot of young men and women are back in Cook.
Yes.
So probably this is the right time that we try to catch them and propose these agri-business ventures rather than doing farming. They may not be willing to really farm directly, but definitely showing the way, linking up cultivation to Puthari's marketing and linking up cultivation to Colonel Muthanna's subsidies. So all this would definitely help. And but the last comment is, here traditional families own lands together. Every family, like I'm from the Chepudira family, we own in a particular village a large survey number of paddy lands. So collectively, in our own traditional iron houses, we decide that we want to get involved and do this. I don't think we can blame anybody else for whatever is happening. So keeping these are some points that I would wish to bring out for discussions here. Thank you, Sujatha.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, Dr. Kushalap. I think it's very useful. It will also give Usha a view into the kind of challenges that we are facing. Elephant menace is another problem. You have the wild boars and all of it. But I really like the way in which you kind of approach it in a very scientific manner. And in a part of the Asian Rice campaign, I definitely want to hear what you've done out there and see how we can partner with you as well. And take this entire thing forward. All right. And as we're going ahead with it, in case there are more questions coming in, do feel free and put it.
I believe this is the main objectives, like conserving rice ecosystems, sustaining rice culture and diversity, protecting traditional wisdom, preventing GMOs and toxics, ensuring safe and nutritious food. These are the objectives of the campaign, and this is how we started, which I already described actually. This is what we did. Now, it actually started in 2004, and this is till 2020. I have documented this. And
I think that's interesting. This particular slide is interesting because you did speak about 2004 up to about 2005. So there's work that has gone all the way up to 2019. Field explanation.
Till 2006, we were after the 2004. That was in December. We had the workshop. And then we had the tsunami, you remember 2004 tsunami. Then 2005, we actually had the interactive sessions in different, especially in South India, with various farmers groups and then trade, because we wanted to focus not everybody, like starting from the final initial farmer to the final consumer. This is the entire chain we wanted to focus. So we were actually meeting with the different kinds of people, not just farmers. But in 2006 onwards, in Kerala, we started to work in Palakkad and Wayanad. Basically, our idea was to change their practices from chemical-based farming to organic farming. So we were giving them training on how to produce organic rice. And so we were not focusing on seeds then. We were focusing on pesticides, and because that was a priority, and also to stop this conversion. But in 2007, interestingly, some of the farmers started to look at getting seeds from the old farmers initially. So they were getting quite excited about with the traditional seeds. So that excitement actually took us into the work on seeds, in a sense. So in 2007, in Kerala, in Karnataka, also in Tamil Nadu, our partners in all these states, we started to look for traditional seeds. Because and we collected like a 5, 10, 15 like that. So because most of the seeds already were gone from the farmers' field. So whatever we could collect in 2007, we started to collect. And slowly, we were also engaging with the media. We were engaging with the millers. We were engaging a little bit with the officials also. Slowly, some media reports started coming out. So in Tamil Nadu, interestingly, there's a magazine called Pasumai Vigada, which goes to farmers. So they carried a story on this work in Tamil Nadu. The Namade Nelkapum, something like that they call in Tamil Nadu. So we had a person there who was in charge of the work in Tamil Nadu. So his name is Jayaraman. And he started getting phone calls from different parts of the state asking for this seed. We have discussions, he will say that, so we have to give seeds to these people. So he said, okay, we can send some 1 kilo, 2 kilo seeds by post. That was our answer there. But after 1 month, he said that I got almost like 600 phone calls. I don't have that much seed. So, so then we had a discussion and we decided that then from Karnataka also, the Krishna Prasad from Sahaja Samriddha, he said that then the best way is to call people, all the farmers, and let us do a seed mela, something like that, and give away the seeds so that we can meet the farmers also. That was the beginning, in a sense, in the next, I think the next watershed in the campaign was the seed festival in Tamil Nadu. So it was really amazing to see farmers from different states coming on their own. They come and then take the seeds and then thanking us for giving the seeds and then going back. So only condition we put was they have to give back double the amount of seed. So if they take 2, they have to give back 4 kilograms. So then next year we can give it to other farmers. So by then, so our work was moving forward, and then we get a lot of media coverage. Media actually helped us a lot. Now, then we started to learn more about the seeds. So initially it was just excitement. Then we started to learn, because there is a lot of traditional knowledge around these varieties. So then, like as I said, duration, different agroecologies, then different purposes for which farmers were cultivating it. So some are for rice, the normal chawal. But then some are for special purposes, like for making poha, or making like beaten rice, or making some kind of special food. There are scented varieties, there are medicinal varieties. So then, slowly, this knowledge system started flowing from the farmers to to people like us, and then also people who are part of this movement. So actually in these 3 states, in Kerala, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu, this gained momentum in a year or so. So in 2009, 8-9, we in Wayanad also we could collect around 24 varieties of paddy rice. So one of our farmer friend, because we did not know what to do with this, because Kerala, because people are moving away from rice farming, especially in Wayanad. If you go, a lot of farmers have gone into banana cultivation or ginger cultivation. So they won't be interested. But then only the tribal farmers and very small farmers got motivated initially. So then one of the tribal farmers said that I will conserve all these varieties, which we collected. And he started, and his name is Cheruvail Raman. His name is well known now in Kerala, also in some other places also. So then in another 1 or 2 years, we bought some land. And some of our friends also bought some land and we are managing it together in Tirunelli Panchayat. So where we have a Thanal Agroecology Center now. So by that time, we started picking some seeds from Karnataka. We started picking some seeds from Tamil Nadu. Similarly, so there was seed exchange also happening. Actually, 2007 to 2009-10 was the period of seed mapping, seed exploration, then rice diversity blocks expansion. Because once you start collecting the seeds, then you have to put it in one place so that we can understand the differences of each variety. And another idea which came was initially we were doing and then harvesting and then keeping it for the next year. But then another idea came up from other groups saying that we have to invite other farmers to this rice diversity block and also the officials. They should come and see the beauty of it initially and then the traditional uses of it so that they can pick whatever they want and they can start on their own. So that is where we started initially it was just a one-day field day program. Then later on it became field week. So not only farmers, initially we just invited some farmers, but in the next coming subsequent years, we invited officials, we invited the district collector, we invited rice scientists, we invited students, we invited women farmers to come and see. And but then I am sure if you do some rice diversity block in Coorg, I am sure people will come and pick. Because we have a lot of memories or some attachment, to this agrobiodiversity. It's just such a wonderful thing to see the diversity. So once you have it in a place, people will come and pick. So we used actually initially, we were doing a lot of training programs, workshops on organic farming. But after we started to work on seeds, we stopped actually training programs. We actually used seed melas, food melas.
It became more experiential, I think.
Yeah, harvest festivals, so that more people will join. No, you just advertise, then more people, different kinds of people will come. And along with that, we actually try to revive a lot of cultural programs also, like folk songs, then dance festival, theater.
In fact, I like the structured approach that you have, and thank you so much for sharing so many of these best practices, because I think it'll be nice to lean on some of your successes as well.
This is the one picture which I want to share, because the left one is from the Tamil Nadu. When you see a farmer in India, you will treat them as a poor person, right? Because of their dress and then because of their lack of like they can't speak English. Maybe they can only speak their language. So always economically they are in a very bad state. But so you always treat them as from an urban point of view, you see them as a poor. So always we are sympathetic to them. But actually they are so resourceful. They have so much. That and they have so much happiness that you don't see. When you start seeing them as a very poor person. So you always want to give something to them. You are kind of a giver and they are kind of a beneficiary. That is what actually dissembled the farmers in our country. So if you treat them as equals, then they will share their problems, that they will share their strength, their knowledge, their understanding, their resilience, everything they will show you. They will share with you. But at least, unfortunately, we were following a different mindset and a different approach. So anyway, this picture makes me happy actually. Because they are very poor, in a sense, conventionally they are very poor, but you will see the happiness in this picture, in this Pongal.
Yeah, and I'm just going back to something that Dr. Kushalapa mentioned. Now with this reverse migration that's happening, we have a lot of youngsters coming back to Coorg. I think this is just the perfect time, because it's about celebrating the farmers.
Exactly.
Right? There seems to be some kind of a hype around, that they're poor and all that.
I have realized over the years that we need money. I am not denying the fact that, but then we actually need a society. We need a collective to support each other. In the COVID times, we had, when we had the flood in 2018, suddenly people came together. So then you realize the strength. Even if you have money, you cannot. The money cannot take you anywhere.
Absolutely.
Only people can take you, not to a safe place. So that is where we have to understand their strength and then their skills. Then there is a partnership. So that is what, and also it's, as I said, it's a rice culture. So there you have this kind of cultural activities around varieties, around the seasons, around harvest, around, like a Puthari, he was saying about it. So I always start, especially in the rice eating cultures, and the first food which you give to a child is rice after the mother's milk. Similarly, when you die also, the last food you give to the person is rice. So that is the kind of connection which you have with the rice, which is developed along with the with our cultures in the last 10,000 years.
Yeah, there is definitely a very, I'm just kind of stepping in. There is a very strong cultural angle also that we definitely have to be cognizant of, because there is a cultural angle, there is a social angle, there is a financial angle, there's a ecological angle, and we've got to tie all of these things together, because without that, we really won't be able to move towards the circular economy. How is it that we're going to be able to benefit from everything and make sure everyone benefits?
And also in many agroecologies of rice, like for example in Wayanad or in Palakkad, even in Coorg maybe, if you look at the traditional rice ecosystems, it was never monoculture. You had a lot of different other crops along with the rice. In Palakkad, for example, I worked in Palakkad as an agriculture officer. So in the 80s and 90s, you will see in the rice fields, you will see vegetables along with in the bunds. Not in the main field, you will have rice, but in the bunds, you will have red gram, you will have vegetables, you will have flowers. Actually, the landscape is so beautiful. So, but then when you introduce high yielding varieties, then the whole irrigation system, canal irrigation, the mechanization, everything, you made rice into a very monoculture.
Absolutely.
So, that actually destroyed the economics also in different ways. Because farmers who used to get income from different sources, and all these were also food for their families. So, food security at home was never an issue for farmers.
Yeah, no, so, I think it's a great way to, also a great way to kind of de-risk, because if something happens to that particular crop, you always have something to fall back on. Usha, I just wanted to, kind of check, because we are at 4:57, and and this is like a huge area, and you're so passionate about it. I'm sure there's so much that you can give us. And like I was sharing the other day, there are more conversations that we can have in this particular space. I just want to know if you're okay if we can take a couple of questions from the audience. But let's find out how they are or what they want to hear from you. Is there anything in particular? So over to you all. I'm just going to stop sharing for a bit. Yeah, and I can see some questions out here. So yeah, would anyone want to ask any questions to Usha? Because there's so much a plethora of information that she has. Anything in particular you want her to narrow down to?
So Sujatha, I have a question.
Please.
Usha, thank you very much for what you said, and that was wonderful. So my question to you is the reverse transition, going back to a organic methodology with traditional seeds. If you can just take a minute or two to tell us what does that mean for a rice farmer in terms of time, number of years it will take to transition, and what can be the expected drop in productivity, if at all, and how do they deal with the conventional issues of pests, for example? I'm not talking about, for example, mammalian pests like wild boar or elephants. I'm talking primarily about insects and so on. So if you can just take a minute or two to run us through that so that people get an understanding of how difficult or how easy it is. Thank you.
It is easy and also difficult. It depends on where they are, the farmers. Because if the farmer is a long-term kind of chemically focused or chemical farmer, then it will take more time. In the sense, maybe 2-3 years maximum, once he or she is convinced. What I see in my whole experience of working with organic farmers, actually conversion for rice is easier than vegetables for organic, towards organic. And also, especially if you choose traditional varieties, because traditional varieties are highly resilient. So if you in Coorg, if you can choose some of the traditional varieties, and maybe you start in a small area initially, then in a season, they will learn, what are the issues, what are the problems, the productivity, all this kind of stuff. And there are some information also, because in Wayanad, we found out that out of these 34 varieties, 2-3 varieties are highly productive. That we found out in 2 to 3 years time. So now for selling purpose, now when you ask farmers to convert to these traditional varieties, we give these varieties initially. So the productivity need not be compromised. And generally, if the climate is okay, actually there is no pest and disease problem for these varieties. Only thing is the soil management, you have to put a lot, more organic manures when you shift from chemical to organic, but it is not in tons. There are a lot of methods now, especially in the natural farming method. You have the Jivamrit, which is very good for paddy. And you start treating the seeds also with the Bijamrit, which is also very easy to make for the farmers themselves. So there are simple methods which they can practice and they can learn in a season or two maximum. Only thing is the initial motivation has to happen. Then they will learn and then they will continue. Then if you can ensure the market, because now, especially the traditional varieties, there is consumers are ready to pay more. In Kerala, in many states now, in the organic outlets, the minimum for the common rice is like 80-85 rupees. So people are ready to pay. But then initially there is a reluctance, then it will take more time. In Andhra Pradesh now, they are trying in a big way. What they are asking is, if you have 1 acre, you shift at least 20-25 cents initially. The rest you manage in your conventional way. Once they learn and understand, they will convert the entire. That will, especially in the case of paddy, 1 or 2 seasons is enough, quite enough for this shift. That is our experience.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? There is a question. Arjun, do you want to?
And another thing, Sujatha, what we did in the initial years, we did a lot of exposure visits for farmers. That actually, they learn from other farmers. So actually, if you have farmers if they want to learn from farmers, they can visit Wayanad, which is closer also. And there, I am also part of that, the Tirunelli Agri Producer Company. And the CEO is one Mr. Rajesh Krishnan. He's a young farmer, new farmer. He's a master's in biotechnology. He did his biotechnology and then ecology. Then he worked in Greenpeace for 10 years. Using that money, he bought land in Wayanad. And he got some of his friends also by that. And then he settled in Wayanad now. And all of us together started this Agri Producer Company. Now, initially, we had only 10 farmers. Now we have 89 farmers in this collective.
Oh, okay.
And he is finding the market and then selling. So after harvest, during the harvest, the company go and purchase from the farm gate and pay the money then itself. Check is given there to the farmer, and they are happy.
And I think in Kodagu also we have this Puthari farmer producer company limited, who's one of our collaborators for today. And I think they're doing a lot of great stuff in making sure that these networks are really important, and they're making sure that building these networks.
Farmers cannot sustain. You have to have a collective, but then maybe it can be just 4-5 initially, but then slowly you grow. You find the market because when you are educated, it is easy to find the market also. You can connect to the city, directly to the consumers. This is what they are selling in Bangalore to the Malayalis, Kerala people. In some of the, and also they are giving to other organic outlets also in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Karnataka. And they are also specializing on 5 varieties, not just one. So there are scented varieties, medicinal variety, and there is something special for making dosha and the common rice. So 5 varieties. So farmers can also choose what they want to grow.
Okay.
And but initially now we are making a plan. We said that this much is needed for the next year. So you can choose which variety you want to grow. It is like that. In agriculture, the organizing is the most important part. And then actually more than the production side, we have to focus on the market.
Yes.
Ensure the market and farmers will automatically change.
Yeah. And I saw one of the comments, I think by Dave, he said that people seem to be going the organic way, and thanks probably also to COVID, people have become a lot more conscious about what is going into their system. And I think this is the right time for us to, like you said, you don't have to convert the entire land or your paddy area into organic. You can do it in bits and pieces. So that becomes very useful. I just wanted to kind of call out, at least for those of you who are on the call, and I can see quite a few of you are still on the call. And I know that we've kind of gone past the time by about 5 minutes. For those of you who want to stay back and ask questions to Usha, please feel free to do that. And for those of you who are planning to step out, thank you so much for joining us. And Usha, thank you so much for coming here and sharing these views. And like I was mentioning earlier, there's so much of resonance with what you are talking about and what we want to achieve. And this piece that you mentioned, which is organizing, is important, focusing on the kind of production and making sure that you take people along. And there's a lot of media coverage that you said. I think there's a lot of branding and communication around rice cultivation that is important to dispel the belief that this is something that is done by farmers. Farmers are people who need to be celebrated.
Especially in the case of paddy, especially in Western Ghats, also in places like where there is high rainfall. The whatever the farmers were doing to the whole society, it was a great service by managing water.
Absolutely.
This is what we have to tell the people. No, unless they do farming, we will be in flood. So we experienced it. Well, basically, farming is a soil and water management.
Yes, absolutely.
But then we never took it for granted, actually.
Yeah.
So now that is where now we are also talking nationally about the payment of ecosystem services. Now you pay to the forest department. Why? They are protecting the forest. So these people are protecting farmlands, paddy lands.
So true.
Even in everywhere. No, so people are generally consumers. No, consumers are the most idiots. They buy everything at a high price. They are ready to buy everything.
Yeah.
But except food.
Yes.
Food they want cheap.
Yeah, they want it cheap, and that's the one that's going directly into our bloodstreams, and not realizing that that's the one that we really need to be very careful about, and not have these multitudes of pesticides going into our systems.
So in our campaign, in our interaction with the consumers, sometimes consumer ask why this is so costly. Then I said, this is not costly. The other one is cheap. You get the food cheap because the farmers are suiciding. But none of us want our children to become farmers. Why? Because it is not economically remunerative. Why? Because we are not ready to pay.
Yeah, we are not ready to pay.
And also, you are ready to pay the pharmacist, not the farmer.
That's a very good point. So again, goes back to what we're saying, which is how can we make rice farming economically viable? I saw Dr. Basavalingaya, I think you had a question.
Sujatha?
Yes, Dr. Kushalapa.
I would wish to introduce Dr. Basavalingaya and Vidyashri, who both in charge of the Agriculture Research Station in Madikeri. We have a beautiful paddy research station. Probably if you drive through Madikeri town, that's the only patch where you get to see. And Dr. Basavalingaya, as an agronomist, is currently heading Usha ma'am, for your information. So he's part of the Agriculture and Horticulture Research Station there. And Vidyashri is a very enthusiastic horticulturist who's working there. So probably we have plans to convert this entire farm over the next 1 or 2 years into organic and showcase to people and make this food available to the residents of Madikeri itself. Tourists are not a priority. It's definitely the residents who could be tasting some of the native varieties of cook grown under organic, because we have about 6 or 7 animals, cattle on the farm. So we could definitely integrate, and I'm extremely happy that both Dr. Basavalingaya and Vidya are around. And I should be leaving the meeting now, another commitment. So probably Dr. Basavalingaya has his question too. So please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kushalapa, for coming in and sharing your views. Look forward to continuing this collaboration. I think this has just opened the windows for a whole lot of new things that are going to emerge and develop. Thank you so much.
Definitely. I would wish to thank Usha for having taken so much of time and trying to replicate the similar kind of experience that's been done in our adjoining. We would wish to come and see those things one of these days and find it out. Thank you very much, Dr. Please.
Okay.
Thank you again, Dr. Kushalapa. Dr. Basavalingaya, before you pose your question to Usha, I just want to thank everyone else who've joined us today and our collaborators for today, because without that, we wouldn't have been able to weave this entire piece together. So thank you, Rana. Thank you, Karyappa, Dr. Kushalapa, Colonel Muthanna, Gopa Kumar, right? And Gopa Kumar's question specifically about how to make sure that we grow organic rice is really important for the project that he's working on, which is about the Koile Meen. So the Koile Meen will survive only if you have organic rice that is growing. So there are so many people who come in with various thoughts which are contributing for this purpose. So thanks to all of you for joining us today. I know, Dave, you have a question. Are you okay if we take Dr. Basavalingaya question and then come back?
Yeah. 1 minute, madam. Actually, I don't have a questions. Just I'm supporting the answers of Madam Usha madam with the questions of Menon sir. Actually, the main theme of organic agriculture is not to feed the plants. It's the slogan of organic agriculture is to feed the soil. Once we feed the soil with the proper nutrients, definitely, see, suppose we are with a good diet and a good nutrition, we have a lot of resistance power to the disease and other things. Maybe the external disease or something, external pest or diseases. Likewise, if you take care of the soil health, soil nutrition, definitely, automatically pest and disease will be going to reduce. This is the only point I want to add. Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much, Dr. Basavan Lingaya. And also, we look forward to what Dr. Kushalapa was sharing, which is to see a lot of traditional rice varieties being made available in Madikeri. I'm from Madikeri, and I look forward to, consuming some of the real authentic
Actually, I
varieties.
want to visit Madikeri this farm.
Welcome to do that.
Welcome, madam.
Yeah, thank you.
All
Definitely,
right.
I will come. Yeah. For a long time, I have been hearing about the station for a long time, but for some reason, could not come. But now you are there, we can come.
Yes.
Sujatha also will be there.
Yeah. There's a common purpose that's going to hold all of us together. That's brilliant.
No, why when you called me, I wanted to. I am interested in this also because the Western Ghats. This is part of the Western Ghats, no. So there actually we have, unless we have a proper agricultural system in the Western Ghats, it will not survive. So that is where now this very, very important this kind of work.
Yes.
It's not a simple thing. It's not a very small thing. It's a very long term. It will have a positive impact.
Yeah. And if it comes from the Western Ghats, and in fact, I'm responsible for the Cauvery Action Network, which I've kind of founded because this is a link between the catchment region, which is Kodagu, which is where the Cauvery takes birth, and travels all the way to the Delta region in Tamil Nadu. Right. So if we are able to connect all of it and also see how we are able to conserve the catchment area, I think there's a lot of work that can be done. Right. So there's a question from Dave. Dave, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, thank you, Doc. Good evening. The question that I have is basically about Coog and how most places in Coog have most people have just let their paddy fields go, barren, so to speak, because they're convinced that it's a loss. Most people haven't really done the math. If they're convinced that it's a loss, they haven't really done the math because it doesn't take a lot to actually break even. But for people who are really convinced, how do you convince that it's a loss? How do you convince them otherwise? How do you convince them that paddy is actually a good thing to do and actually grow? Because people actually, what you're growing, actually, you can't put a price on it. It's absolutely priceless. When you can grow and eat your own rice, there is actually no price you can put on it.
Yes, my answer to this will be to give them some traditional variety to eat. The taste of it, that will change them, I think. It is actually whatever from the market, whatever you buy as rice, it has no taste.
But if you don't know any better, then what?
Yeah, that is where you then, if you give the traditional one, I am, at least for the last 10 years, I am eating only traditional rice. Okay. And now I can't take the one which is sold in the market because it's so different.
Yeah.
Even
and also it is tasteless, and you make all the curries to make your food tasty. So there is more work actually happening.
Fortunately, I've never had that experience because we only eat PUB rice.
That's his grandfather's the strain of rice that I was talking about, Usha.
If you have some, for example, especially the people who have land, I am sure you will have some other income also. So initially, you don't worry about the income part. The land is given to you by your ancestors. It is also a responsibility. As a citizen, it is our responsibility to take care of our land. And this next decade, 2020 to 2030 is the decade of eco-restoration declared by UN.
Yeah.
So Coorg, I think, as I understand, like in Wayanad, actually Wayanad means Vayal Nadu. It's a land of paddy. That is where we began our conversation. Now this is Vayal Nadu. Wayanad is Vayal Nadu. Where are the vayals? It's all gone. And you have water issue. You have to buy water. And you have pesticides. In a banana, a lot of pesticides.
Yeah.
If you grow paddy, anyway, even if you grow with the chemicals, it is still less. And farmers are suffering from, the neighbors are suffering from cancer. So you make these connections. So your conversation, the engagement with the people should have these kind of innocence arguments. So this is something you are expecting. This is here. Cancer is around us. Now the climate change is around us. And also in the case of farming, the conventional chemical agriculture is also contributing to climate change. And agriculture is, in turn, get impacted more by climate change. So how do you correct it?
Yeah.
If you want to survive in this planet, you have to make some changes. And at least people having some wherewithal like us, at least people have money and then land. You start from there. And you start eating from your own land. and also the biodiversity conservation aspect. No, which I want to. In Wayanad, we did a study on the uncultivated edible leaves in the paddy lands. Around 40 leaves we could identify. Still, some of the local communities like tribals, very poor farmers, no, they are all eating it in this season, July, August season. They are taking it from the field. And it is very important to eat leafy vegetables. And leafy vegetables have more minerals and vitamins than any other food. So you should eat it. But if you have to eat from the paddy land should be organic. If you put chemicals, all these leafy vegetables, they will absorb all the chemicals because they have that capacity, and you will be eating that. So you can't touch it actually. That is a circular. No, everything is connected.
Totally.
And that is what, no, the farmer, we have to start respecting farmers more than the doctor.
Yeah. So Dave, I think that's a good
Thank
point.
you so much for that. But also these edible leaves that you are talking about around the paddy fields, is there any information about that with like photographic?
We have a publication. We have a publication which is in Malayalam. I can share if you want.
Yeah, I think it's just a question of translating it, because the pictures would always be there, right?
Yeah, pictures.
Pictures are there.
Yes, please send us the name of that book.
Yeah.
And a translator.
I can send a soft copy.
We'll use a Google translator for that. What you actually shared was really powerful, because I think that we have enough data to convince people to go the organic way. It's just about putting it all together and presenting it to them. Because if we are convinced, I think there's nothing like that. We have success stories within us, right? Amongst us. There's so much of collective wisdom, and that's something that we're going to be taking to the next level. I know that we've kind of run past time, and Gopakumar has been kind enough to give us a little extra time earlier, but I think we're getting really close to that the last part of it. Pant, Monappa, I can see you would like to ask a question, is it?
Well, I just wanted to present what exactly we are planning to do and help farmers to grow paddy. In fact, I've been growing paddy in the last 40 years. I'm not looking at whether I'm making money or not. One of the reasons is to ensure that the water table is always maintained in Kodagu. That is one of the main purpose. Second purpose is during the monsoon, there'll be no estate work that's happening. So give additional work for the laborers. Yeah. Third thing is I have cattle. So I'm almost producing close to 700 bags of vermicompost. So I'm not dependent on buying vermicompost from outside. That is one part. The second part is we are about 11 business people from Bangalore who have come back to food, diversifying into business, and the brand name is called Cat Kodagu. I'm very closely working with Dr. Kushalappa and also Mr. Ganesh Timmaya, who is a national awardee as one of the best farmers in paddy cultivation. We are a catalyst like. We're trying to help the local farmers to ensure they don't leave their paddy field barren. One of the major reasons why in Kodagu or everywhere people are not growing paddy is because, I'm sorry to say, the government policy is really bad. Giving free rice is one of the major reasons why there is no demand for paddy. And all this rice is being given to a family. In the bargain, what is happening is they're coming back to the market and selling it at a higher price. Higher in the sense is not a remunerative price for a farmer to really grow. So what we are doing is we are helping all the farmers to grow paddy. Unfortunately, since the last 10 years, they're not grown. So there is a huge investment on re-establishing the paddy field to make it more cultivable. So I'm closely working with Dr. Kushalappa and trying to find out if the government can help in subsidizing the expenses to recultivate the barren land, so that the assurance that we are giving to the farmers is that we will market their paddy. And that is how we have decided to start a business here, wherein our concept is door delivery of groceries, so that win the confidence of the farmers and assure them you start growing paddy, we will buy back the product.
You'll get a market for them. Yeah.
And we are processing the paddy by different ways of using rice. We are setting up a common facility center under the central government scheme, wherein we are establishing a flour mill, wherein we powder the rice and different sizes of granules we make it for various use. This is how we are trying to do. But this year, we really wanted to start off by converting about 40 acres of fallow land into cultivation. But finally, when it came to the initial investment, it became a big challenge for them. So Dr. Kushalappa definitely, he said, to give an estimate so that you try and work out some strategy through the government scheme. But unfortunately, it was too late. The monsoon also was erratic. So next year, we are ensuring all the farmers that let them grow. We will buy the paddy, convert that into rice and sell it across the country. This is our plan. So I want to know how you can help in making these farmers who have left their land barren, so that some subsidy by way of re-establishing these land into a cultivable area. Thank you.
In Kerala, through this campaign, we worked with the government also. In Kerala we have a paddy land conversion act actually, okay, by which government has stopped. In a sense, there are illegally something is happening, but generally people cannot change the landscape anymore. So that we got in 2008. After that, in the act it is written that the government has to put money for fallow land cultivation.
Okay.
So the farmer has to be ensured money. So the government is paying now, like per acre something. Initially, it's 5,000 rupees per acre, something like that. They are giving to the fallow lands, once to start the cultivation. And also, Kerala has the highest MSP for paddy. Currently, we have 28 per kilo.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, which is a good price. So that all these to encourage more paddy cultivation. So that because of the law, that is in a sense this is happening, and there are at least some of the especially CPI, left the government. CPI always hold the agriculture ministry. Generally, somehow they understand these issues on the environment. So always those ministers, when they come to power, they support paddy cultivation. So there is in area is increasing in Kerala because of that. And also this campaign also triggered a lot of discussion in the media. Also a lot of youngsters are now coming back to farming. So when they come, they form a group. Because unlike the traditional farmers, they also need to learn and then do. So they form a group and then they have to sell. So like that small, especially in North Kerala, 6-7 districts now, not even traditional farmers, but in the next third generation of the traditional farmers are now getting back to paddy farming and vegetable cultivation.
Okay. Then
thank you.
As Dr. Kushalappa mentioned, we will definitely take help of the government. Could you give me this piece of information? So next year we can
actually approach also, because also it is the Western Ghats region. So maybe from Biodiversity Board or some like that. Maybe forest department, I do not know, but if I do not know whether the state has a Western Ghats cell also. Maybe you can try to understand all these the government machineries and get their help.
Okay,
that is possible.
Okay, thank
that
you.
should be possible, I think.
Yeah,
Thank
we'll
you.
ensure
Thanks,
that all fallow land are being reused and people go ahead producing paddy. As you rightly said, government has fixed of MSP, which is not very remunerative in Karnataka, but we are planning to fix a price with for the farmers so that they'll start cultivating it.
Great, thanks so much, Panth, for your question and the work that you're doing. You did mention that there was somebody who had got a national award for farming. I'll get back to you to gather that information. Probably we could have him as one of our speakers, because there might be a lot of best practices like Usha sharing with us that he might have as well. And also going back to what you were saying, Usha, all that you've achieved till now started way back in 2003, and that's been a long journey. And there's so much of structure that you put to the entire effort and the approach that you have currently, that it's very kind of you to share these best practices with us, because it looks like there's a lot of opportunity for us to probably cross-pollinate information.
Sure.
There is something that's happening out here. One of it is that you're going to be visiting us. The other is that we're going to have a couple of our folks visiting Kerala to just understand what are some things that will work. I mean, the problems are there. There is a lot of commonalities in the problems, and a lot of commonalities in the successes, a lot of traditional varieties that reside in both the states. And we also know that there seems to be an inclination for better food and conscious living practices today. So I think this has been a wonderful sharing of information from your side, and thank you so much for that, Usha. And thank you thanks to everyone who has joined us. And I know there are a couple of people who are still there. We will share Usha's coordinates because I'm sure you might have a lot more specific questions. And we'll take that forward and make sure that you're all connected. The whole idea is when we have a network, when we stay connected, we know what are some of the efforts that are going on there, and at the end of it, how can the economy thrive, and how is it going to be viable for all of us. So on that note, once again, Gopa, thank you so much, and thank you to all the collaborators who joined us and who are with us today, and look forward to forging more collaborations, because that's the way in which we're going to take this movement forward. So thank you, one and all of you.